and recording.
It's 7:02. Good evening, everybody. This is the Board of Library Trustees meeting. Notice is sent out for this meeting here, and remote participation is allowed in accordance with Section 20A, B, and C of the Acts of 2021 signed into law by Governor Baker on June 16th, 2021, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law C, 30A, Section 18. I don't know if I just mentioned the date, but today is the 7th of February, and we started at 7:02. Alternative public access to this meeting shall be provided in the following manner. The meeting will be televised via Peabody Access Television. Real-time public comments during the meeting can be addressed to the Board of Library Trustees utilizing the Zoom virtual meeting software for remote access. This application will allow users to view the meeting and make a comment or question to the chair via the audio option. And link information and other dial-in information is available here. So turning over to the next page, this is our agenda for the evening. Sarah, kindly ask call to order. Roll call, please.
This is the roll call. Peter Bakula.
Present.
Stephanie Dallaire.
Present.
Don McAllister. Francis Gallugi. Stephanie Najjar. Kate O'Brien.
Here.
Okay, it's here.
Thomas Pappas.
Here.
Ann Quinn.
Here.
Richard Shruhan.
Here.
Jennifer Smith.
Here.
Ruth Teitelbaum. Katrina
Sure.
Vasallo.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Item number 2 of the agenda. Do I have approval of the minutes of the previous meeting? Actually, let's receive these so we can actually read through them, please. Can I have a motion to receive?
Oh, so moved.
Thank you, Ann. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jen. All right, everybody, let's take a few minutes to read these, and then we'll have some discussion in a couple minutes.
Oh, I've already read. I will say that for one, I have read them already.
I have two. Can we let everybody read them, please, Ann?
I just want to say for once, I have nothing to say.
Yay! Good job, Sarah.
Yes.
You did it.
I second that.
Okay, has everybody had a chance to read these? Okay, has anybody not had a chance to read these? All right, so let's start a discussion. I'll go first. Last meeting, we proposed changes to the subcommittees. On policies and procedures, we still have Kate O'Brien here. We changed her to Audubon. It was Katrina Vasallo who has taken that role as chair.
Wow.
So can we fix that, please? That'll be the first amendment.
Right.
And I did read those, read through, and that's all I have. Does anybody have anything else?
Just confirming for the minutes. Katrina Vasallo is now in charge of policies and procedures.
Yes. Does everybody remember that?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Can I have an amendment, an amended motion, please? And a second?
I make a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
Okay. And a second,
Second.
please. Rich, thank you. And who was the second? I'm sorry.
Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer. Further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And
Aye.
Aye.
any opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Receipt of communication. Do we have any communications that we need to receive here this evening, Director Merlin?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay. Then please proceed with your director's report. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being flexible and meeting online tonight. Happy February, I guess. Director's report to the Board of Library Trustees, February 2022. Staffing. Staff attendance levels have returned to normal after holidays and illnesses. We remain fully staffed, except for the still vacant full-time custodian position that was vacated last April and posted internally in September. Sean Marr, our remaining full-time custodian, has been going above and beyond, and part-time evening custodian Dave Farley has also helped immensely. Custodians from the City Facilities Department have helped with coverage, cleaning, and snow removal, but the situation is getting untenable for all involved, and I hope to hear more soon regarding filling this position. Programs and initiatives. Adult and teen in-person programming has resumed, and we hope to resume in-person children's programming in March. The Children's Department currently hosts 3 online story times every week. The weekly walk-in vaccine and booster clinic, in partnership with the Peabody Department of Health and Mass General Brigham, has been held 3 times and has served between 50 and 100 people each time. Setup is minimal on our part, and it is truly a gratifying experience to welcome new people into the library as they keep themselves and their families healthy. Library staff have set up displays, brochures, and craft kits in the waiting area, and we are seeing new faces every week. The LSTA grant application process for Our Garden continues, with the draft application due later this month and the final application due in April. The West Branch is again hosting free AARP tax help and preparation through volunteers through April 11th. A limited number of appointments is still available and can be made by calling the West Branch directly. And just a note that AARP tax help is head up by former trustee Wes Merrill, which is nice. On Friday, February 18th, the main library will be hosting the Peabody Veterans Memorial High School's Winter Art Show and Coffee House, showcasing the work of fall semester Peabody High art students and music students. This event will be catered by the Peabody High Culinary Department students. This after-hours event will feature acoustic music performances in the Sutton Room and works of multimedia art displayed in the second floor tech lab and first floor main reading room. I am emailing and mailing invitations this week and hope that all trustees can attend, as we'll be combining George Peabody's 227th birthday with this event in honor of his commitment to education. And then I would like to discuss later in tonight's meeting how the trustees can be present to welcome the community. The annual spring concert series, sponsored by the Library Foundation and McCarthy Family Foundation, will begin this coming Monday, the 14th, with harpist Anya Minogue, followed by the New England Chamber Players on Monday, February 28th. All concerts will be in person in the Sutton Room and simultaneously broadcast live. The platform is still to be finalized. And then the Peapod, our annual free seed library, will return for its 4th growing season in March, with flower, vegetable, and herb seeds available to patrons at all 3 locations. Budget. I sent you the budget earlier today for your review, and nothing is of concern. Everything's right on track. Lewis Carger, whose family generously funds the annual Carger Endowment for Art and Poetry Books in honor of his late father, Theodore Carger, contacted me regarding setting up a new trust in honor of his mother, Beatrice Carger, to fund nonfiction titles for the West Branch Library. I'm working with him and the city to set up this trust, and I'm incredibly grateful for his family's continued support of and dedication to the library. Policy. I have received a request for reconsideration form regarding the children's book, Amazing Women of the Middle East by Wafa Tarnowska, which is owned by the West Branch Library, 5 other Noble libraries that have also received requests for consideration from the same patron who's not a Peabody resident, and over 50 libraries in Massachusetts. We are following the current protocol and procedures, which calls for the original selector and other staff who are familiar with the collection to review the title in regards to our collection policies and provide the patron with a response by March 1st. I've included in this email, as I sent you last week, the full Appendix C procedures for requests for reconsideration, and request a ratification vote tonight, changing that title from the previous title, which was Appendix C, procedures for patron complaints, as I feel that the previous title does not accurately describe what the procedures are for and implies more general complaints like building issues. Did everybody else hear that?
Brandon, you might have a microphone that's causing feedback. I'm going to put mine on mute while you're talking.
Thanks. Sorry. So back to the request for reconsideration. While this ongoing request for reconsideration will be conducted under our current policy, I'm proposing the following change going forward as to who conducts the preliminary review after consulting with policies and procedure trustee Vassallo, and then the current language is struck out below, and proposed new language is highlighted in yellow.
I'm getting out of here.
Okay. So you can see in the notes below you, I can actually open that up on my screen. 1 second. Sorry. Let me open this up on my screen and I can screen share and you can see. Sorry, 1 second.
Everybody, if you have a mosaic up, you can go to the upper right where it says view and select speaker to get the just the speaker, and you'll be able to see what our director has to show.
And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Can everybody see that? Okay,
Perfect.
so this is just the same report you have in front of you, but this is so our request for reconsideration. Step 1 deals with the patron filing the complaint, which is filling out the request for reconsideration form, basically saying why they think the title should not be part of our collection. And that gets sent to the director. And then step 2 is how the process starts of re-examining the title and whether it belongs in our collection. So step 2 is a preliminary review. And it used to say, as of now, as soon as a complaint has been filed, the objection should be reviewed by the persons that selected the item or is responsible for that part of the collection. And I'm proposing changing that to, as soon as the complaint is filed, the objection should be reviewed by a committee of professional staff appointed by the director. And the reason for that is I think that putting the onus on the selector, who was the person who originally chose the title, can be uncomfortable for the selector because they may feel personally, I mean, they are responsible for choosing the book, but it makes it hard for anybody, I think, to be completely objective and to look at our policies and not feel personally defensive or really bad about it or uncomfortable, or just kind of feel like it's an uncomfortable situation for everybody. And by having a committee that I appoint of professional staff, and that is usually our senior librarians with Masters of Library Science degrees, that means that you're going to have 3 people now making suggestions and recommendations on a committee consensus basis who were not involved with the original purchasing versus one person kind of doing it on their own, defending their own work. So I think that it is better for both the patron who is having a concern about the item and for the staff involved. This, I think, makes it unbiased and needs a group to decide on something. So I think this is going to be better for everybody going forward. I'm going to unshare, stop sharing my screen, I guess. So like I said, this changes who reviews and provides the director with suggested action from the selector, the person who chose to add said title to the collection, to a committee of unbiased professional staff. I feel that this helps both the patron and the staff, as the review and suggestions will be made by objective group consensus. So that means tonight that we'll need a vote on both that policy change and the changing of the name of the policy itself. Somebody is raising their hand. Rick, did you have something to say?
Question.
Yep.
Go ahead, Rick.
So we're changing the policy after we receive the request. Can we use the new procedure even though we're changing it after? I
don't think so. I think that for this current one, our current procedure does call for the selector and people familiar with that collection, with that section of the library. So I'm having staff work on this who are familiar with the children's department, with nonfiction department. So I'm still bringing in other staff as the current policy allows for. I would just like it to be more official going forward, that I'm always bringing in other staff and not leaving it to the selector to defend their work.
Thank you.
Sure. And then local history and Audubon's. The library was closed this past Friday, the 4th, due to the ice storm. So I am rescheduling the pickup for later this month. And I will let everybody know when that's happening. If you want to stop by the library, it's pretty neat to see them pull the prints out of the vault and pack them up to go. And then senior local history librarian Catherine Badal and I are working with the city purchasing department to determine a list of companies to schedule consultations with regarding new sunroom curtains. And we are also waiting for quotes for custom wood display cases for all 3 libraries, City Hall, and the Senior Center to house local history collections. And then building and grounds. I am waiting for quotes and feedback regarding upgraded lighting in all 3 locations. And I will be reaching out to the Peabody Historical Commission as the light posts in the main library courtyard will need to be approved due to their age and the historical significance of the building. And this past Wednesday, there was a major blockage in the main sewage line in Main Street. The main library sewage line was directly behind this blockage, so there is a sizable backup of sewage into the basement. The city worked to clear the main blockage. All items in the storage area were thrown away, and a professional cleaning company cleaned and sanitized the basement on Thursday. And then finally, and this is just repeating from every month pretty much, the West Branch Library's roof still leaks frequently and needs to be replaced. And I am beginning the process of requesting a capital improvement to replace the entire roof. And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Merlin. Any questions for Director Merlin? Stephanie Najjar, you're on mute.
Hi, Kate and everyone. How much damage was there to everything? What was thrown away with that backup?
What was thrown away was old shelving that was going to get thrown away anyway. Honestly, it's just a storage area down there. And we have been moving shelving out of, it's really old, that old beige metal shelving. We've been moving that shelving out of areas slowly, and that was just where it was being stored. So it was, Sean and I have been planning a cleanup day this spring where we just spend an entire Friday and get like a bagster and just haul stuff out and clean out the basement because it's just decades of storage down there. So that was not, luckily nothing was damaged that was of any importance or value down there.
Okay, great. Great.
It was an experience.
Oh my goodness, I can't imagine.
Did it smell?
It not as, so I came in the next morning, this happened at about 7 o'clock on Wednesday night. It smelled in the basement. When I came in the next morning, all the custodian, Sean and Dave, had closed all the big bulkhead doors and fire doors everywhere. So on the first floor, there was like, if you spend a lot of time on the first floor, there was like a taste, like it was seeping up at that point. It had been there for about 12 hours at that point. So we actually didn't open, and I ran this by Tom and the mayor until 5 o'clock on Thursday, because I did not want to open until staff could safely walk around the building and patrons weren't getting a mouthful of it when they walked in the front door. So we had the courtyard open and people could come in and pick up their holds, but the children's room smelled and the first floor smelled a little bit. So it did not seem healthy to open. So I had most of the staff actually just worked up on the 2nd and 3rd floors. I gave them the option to go to work from one of the branches. A couple people went to the branch to get work done. Everybody else just kind of hunkered down and worked until 5 in a closed library. And then the Roto-Rooter guys came back that morning to clean up everything. And then we threw stuff away. And then the professional cleaning company came until like 3-ish and just sucked everything out through a tube through the front door and sprayed, I think, 3 layers of antimicrobial mist everywhere. And it was a day. It was, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for handling all of that. That's not regular library director duty or library science stuff that they teach you in school, right? So
honestly, I was warned when I took this job that like 90% of my job would be buildings and grounds, and I scoffed at that, and it is in fact true. So,
well, and 3/4 of that is the elevator, right? Or was.
You know what? We have had, knock on wood, the elevator has been fine and doing its job.
Fantastic. So. That was a large piece of equipment that was exchanged.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you for all that you have gone through this week. Is any other questions, Ruth?
Yes, I do. I have a question. You had mentioned that there were a lot of shelving. There was a lot of shelving in the basement. Mm-hmm. Is it something that can be recycled that a company might pick up? And
I have no idea, honestly. The stuff that we got rid of, this had been a spring project we were going to work on, and what we were going to do was offer it first to other libraries, because a lot of libraries still are lacking and don't have the funds to add new shelving, and it's hard to find, strangely. It's all kind of an old style. So our first goal later this spring is to offer to other libraries who might want it and then go from there. But I'll definitely put looking into recycling on the list because it's a lot of steel. So if somebody might want it, that's a really good idea. Thank you. I'll do that. Definitely.
Okay.
This stuff from Friday though you would not have wanted to recycle that. But going forward, the clean stuff. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, Anne, please go ahead.
Just wanted to, this is about this Lewis Carter.
Mhm.
Do we need to send him some kind of a thank you from the board for his setting up this this new trust
Yes, I would think so.
in memory of his mother?
Yeah. Yeah.
Great idea, Anne. How do we go about doing something like that?
I have I can write it up on behalf of myself and the board, and we can make it a nice card, and I can at the next meeting everybody sign it and go from there and just mail it to
Okay.
him.
That sounds
But they've
good.
been this Theodore Carter Trust has been around for a long time. And I met with him and his brother a couple weeks ago, and they've expanded what the trust can be. That trust was limited to fine arts and poetry, but we're finding it's hard to spend that money, to spend that much every year on fine arts and poetry. So he has opened it up to journalism and more current event stuff. And then this trust from his mother is specifically at the West for nonfiction. And he's going to add, basically, he wants us to spend the money every year, and then he'll add more every year. So it's kind of an ongoing fund.
It's wonderful. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Director Merlin. Do I have a motion to receive the director's report? Thank you, Stephanie. Do I have a second? Thank you, Stephanie Najjar. First is Stephanie Delar, second, Stephanie Najjar. Okay, any discussions? No discussion. All in favor? Any opposed? And the motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Reports of the subcommittees. So Audubon, Kate O'Brien. No Kate O'Brien here? That's right, Kate's over here. I'm sorry, I don't see your picture. Sorry, Kate.
Nothing more to report than what from the director's report.
Thank you. Ann Quinn, Historical Society.
Yes, I'm happy to report that Catherine Bedau, our local history librarian, is coming to the Peabody Historical Society on Wednesday, this Wednesday, right, to meet with some of the kind of administrative volunteers. And she's going to she'll get a little tour. The curator will give her a tour of the historical properties, tell her what we're doing. We'll show her the projects that we're working on. And then she will join us for our end of day tea. We always have tea and cookies at the end. It's very civilized. And in return, at some point to be determined soon, we will come to the library, and Catherine has agreed to take us, Historical Society volunteers, and probably maybe some of the officers into the Sutton Room and to talk about what the library has that might be of use and interest to the Historical Society. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity to exchange information about our resources, and looking forward to continuing that.
Well, thank you, Ann. Thank you for that. Now, did you facilitate all of this?
Yes.
That's wonderful. Thank you
Of
so
course.
much for that engagement.
Who else?
All right. And Friends of the Peabody Library Foundation, Stephanie Najjar. You're on mute, Stephanie.
Hi. We were supposed to have a meeting tonight at 6 p.m. prior to this meeting, but unfortunately we had to cancel it. So other than what the director talked about, our February 18th event, I don't really have an update for you beyond that. So I'm sure we'll be getting together. Right, Kate? We'll try to put something together prior to the event.
Yeah.
And everybody will be included just to remind everybody of the event and the details to come. Okay.
Well, we had talked about bringing in the big wreath as some for Judge Peabody's birthday.
Yeah. So there, yeah, exactly, which was what the meeting was supposed to cover, all the details of who was going to do what.
Right, right.
And so we will have to make that happen. So it will happen. We just have to figure out in the next week and a half when that's going to happen. But we'll pull it together, I'm sure.
We
Thank
always
you,
do.
Stephanie.
Yeah.
Building and grounds, Richard Struhan.
Nothing further besides the director's report.
Okay, thank you. And for personnel, Don McAllister is not here this evening. Policies and procedures, Katrina.
Nothing beyond what was in the director's.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Do I have a motion to receive the committee reports?
Oops. Oh, yes. So moved.
Thank you, Ann. Do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Stephanie. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everyone.
Can I go back to the director's report and just ask Kate a question about this custodian situation?
I'd like to stay on agenda, Ann, but I think that if our director is willing to field the question, I'll let it be entertained. Go ahead, Ann.
Absolutely.
I mean, I just wondered, is he working overtime and getting paid for his
Yep.
extra efforts? And
Absolutely. Sean is
Record.
working overtime weekly. The way the custodian schedule works is that the full-time custodians each work 4 days a week and then either work a half Friday or a full day Saturday on an alternating basis. So he's been working every other Friday and then the alternating Saturdays. And then the Fridays when Sean is not scheduled, there's no custodian in the building. So it's Assistant Director Hayden and myself opening and closing the building and nobody there to clean or anything. And then the alternating Saturdays when Sean is not scheduled, there's a wonderful school custodian named George Pike who's been working overtime this whole time. So he's been working his full-time job at the schools plus overtime on every other Saturday. And then at night, Dave Farley closes up. If he's ever out, then basically myself and Assistant Director Hayden and Sean and other senior staff are swapping back and forth who's closing the building. Like tonight, they're closing with no custodian because Dave's out tonight. Normally, the day custodians, if our night custodian was out, they would cover it, but we don't have enough people to cover it. It's kind of absurd. We've been doing it for so long and waiting for something to happen. And people are working on this. I know they are. It's very slow. And the longer it happens, the more kind of absurd. Like Dave was out yesterday. He got hurt at home on Saturday. So yesterday was a Sunday librarian. I went in yesterday to open the library. And then poor George, who worked all day Saturday, came in to close the library. We're doing a lot of that, a lot of like kind of running around with chickens with their heads cut off to open and close the building. And the branches are currently getting cleaned by school staff that come over twice a week to each branch that fill in because we don't have a full-time. It's honestly a mess. Everything is like, it's like we're at the straw that broke the camel's back. Right now, everything has been working very carefully and very, very carefully and very exactly. But with all the snow, it's been really tough because Sean, normally when it snows, both custodians would come in and work for the full 8 hours. Last Sunday, Sean did a 9-hour day by himself with some facilities help. They did send him help, but he basically was here 9 hours by himself, cleaning all 3 branches on his own, which he should have another custodian do that with him. And like I said, he had help from facilities and they are sending people over. And whenever we ask for help, they send it. But there needs to be another full-time position who is here. And also, the facilities people, they're getting overtime as well, helping us out. And that's not cheap either. It's kind of getting to be a bit much for all of us.
Is there anything that we can do as a board here that can help?
I'm not sure. I spoke with the mayor and he asked if I needed anything from him. I said, the custodian position, please. And he said he'd get on it. HR and the facilities department who are in charge of hiring are working on it. I'm just waiting to hear something at this point, but I'm sure, asking questions and being the squeaky wheel couldn't hurt. In a nice, thankful way.
Do you think this is part of this whole thing that's going on in society that just everybody's having a hard time finding people to
It
come.
seems
I don't
that way.
know.
It seems that way, and everywhere we go, there people
They do?
are having staff issues like this. It seems so.
Okay.
Hang in there, Kate. Thank you. Okay, so we were moving on to the next agenda item. We received the reports of the subcommittees, and now we have some unfinished business. Is this a point where I can ask Stephanie Najjar about the medals?
Yeah.
Stephanie, tell us about the medals for the George Peabody
I
Award.
know. I'm a little disappointed we're not in person because next meeting, I'll have pictures and we can have a better discussion. It's just not really Zoom friendly to do this tonight.
Okay.
But it looks like we've had a lot of discussion with the high school and with some vendors. I contacted Crown Trophy and Peabody, and they don't have the capability to create what I think is the level of medal we should be presenting. So, you've all heard of Jostens. They do all the rings for, graduates of college, high school, all that. They can truly create absolutely anything with a beautiful, authentic look to it. So I have some pictures and ideas that they're more than happy. I've reached out to the representative. Her name is Kate, another Kate, at Jostens. I haven't heard back from her yet, but Stephanie at Peabody High gave me her contact information. So I've reached out to her. So there's just been a lot of conversation back and forth. And then we can kind of bring things once we get to that next step where I can bring things forward to you folks and say, okay, here's some ideas and then we can talk about what we think we'd like going forward, down to not only the image, but we were also discussing, instead of pinning, we actually like the idea of doing maybe a ribbon instead, with the medallion hanging from a ribbon instead of a pin, which actually is just so much easier in the end, for many reasons, so you don't lose it and all that. And pinning is a difficult process always. So we like the idea of doing that, but that's a minor detail. We can cross that bridge when we get to it. But I'm excited because the other Stephanie at Peabody High had pulled up some information from the some sort of Peabody historical page, and found these beautiful pictures of the coins with George Peabody's face on it that I think we're all going to love. That is kind of capturing what I think we've been after to make this medal look awesome. So at the next meeting, I'll print copies. I can actually I can either scan them and throw them in an email to you all or whatever, but I just didn't have time to put that together for tonight. So we will next meeting, hopefully meet in person, and we can kind of stew over that a little bit together. I don't think it's realistic that it's going to happen for this graduation year, because it's a whole production thing. That's one of the questions I have for Kate at Jostens, is I have no idea what the turnaround time is. So not only do you have to buckle down an image, then you have to get, the whole production piece together too. So I think realistically, I'm guessing it's not going to happen for this year's graduation, but at least we have something going forward to look at for years to come thereafter. So that's kind of the latest and greatest.
Stephanie, I have a couple of questions, and I'm not expecting to have answers, but and this might sound a little bit silly, but did George Peabody have like a preference in the type of a metal or an alloy that would, like a bronze, a brass, a silver, or something like that?
Well, in my mind, looking at some of the older things, in my mind, I'm thinking of like the goldish look, the goldish bronze look. That just seems appropriate for the times. Of historically speaking, I guess, more so than a silver tone.
Okay.
So in my mind, I would think that that's something we can discuss as a board and everybody can put their 2 cents in.
It sounds like you've given this some thought, and I was just curious.
I can't wait to show you these images because I think you're going to like the whole look.
Okay.
And it being gold, I think, of course, it can't be solid gold. No one can afford that, but the look of it, some sort of nice quality so it can be lasting and just look authentic.
Very nice. And the other thing too is when you mention somebody like Jostens, is it Jostens? Is that how you say their name?
Jostens.
Yeah. So I would expect they'd have to machine a die, and that die is where our costs are going to be. Do you envision that we get many of them just one time, or let them hang on to the die and produce them as needed?
Yeah, from what I've seen with them, they've been doing them most recently. So they would buy so many at a time to help keep the costs down. So that'll get laid out in the price structure, I'm sure. They'll come to us and say, okay, if you buy this many, this will be the price. So we haven't crossed that bridge yet. So I have to get connected with Kate to go over some of that more detailed information and exchange, even just the look of the metal. But when I send you guys what I'm talking about, I think you're going to like it. It's really all about George. It's beautiful. It's just, It's him, and it's a beautiful picture of him. There's two of them that are similar. They're different, but similar. And I feel like that's the first thing that I've seen thus far that I really think we all would probably like compared to other pieces we've had.
Well, thank you for all that work that you're doing on this project.
It's been fun. A lot of conversations, and fortunately, Principal Magno from high school happens to come into the Higgins now and then. So he and we keep connecting, and we keep taking these baby steps of working around, getting callbacks from, like when I called Harrington Trophy and Land, I called Crown Trophy and Peabody, and that just all takes time, communicating, finding some information. Stephanie at the high school's pulling out OPOs to see about costs and just things like that. So I'm sorry, it's not the fastest process,
but it sounds like you're doing everything better than right. So I think Anne has a question for you.
No, I just want to share something with the board and Stephanie about the George Peabody Medal. The project I'm working on at the Historical Society has to do with data entry around Peabody women who served in the military during the wars, World War II and whatever, and they filled out these forms. And I recently did one from some woman who, when it said, other information about yourself, and she noted, I was a recipient of a George Peabody Medal upon high school graduation. So it's a significant event to these recipients, at least for this woman, that she will put it in that form for the Historical Society.
Right. It is. I think it's a big deal personally. I just love the history of it all and the tradition of it all. I think it's just such a nice tradition that Peabody has had all these years. And it's exciting that everyone, it's got so much support. Everybody wants to keep it going. And we've had different principals and at the high school. And it's just something that everyone really supports and gravitates to, because it's just such a nice way to keep George Peabody alive, with our high school ceremonies. It's just really nice.
Is there any ideas of what we're going to do this year with the ceremony, and what kind of medals are we going to use? Are we going to have a repeat of last year, or are we going to have something that's a step up?
So like I said, if we can't get a new design in time, I don't know how unrealistic or realistic it is until I'm able to get more information from Kate Tolman. Secondly, the next case scenario is going to be, we have to just use what we have on file with them, and they can produce them and make sure we have them in time for graduation.
Understood. Jennifer, sorry I took your question away from you.
That's fine. Got the answer.
You have anything further to ask Stephanie? Okay. Any other questions for Stephanie?
Yes,
Again,
next time I'll do copies so we can all kind of pass them around and be looking at them together. Different ideas, what's been done in the past, what we think we want to do next time. So that way we can just get into a really good conversation and quickly boil it down into what we want to focus on.
Great work. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to seeing those pictures next time. Okay. Thank you, Stephanie. Anything else for unfinished business? I think we're good here. Okay. New business. Any new business? I haven't heard anything from anyone for new business, which brings us up to any matter suggested by a trustee to the library director prior to the issuance of the notice of agenda. And have you received anything?
Well, I think under new business would be the policy changes and then discussing the art show next Friday or in 2 Fridays.
Right.
You know something, thank you for bringing us back to the agenda point. Okay, so so we need to have that vote put in for the two changes that you're asking for. Can somebody please make motions?
Motion.
Katrina, go ahead.
I make the motion to accept. Do I have to make like the full motion? Sorry, I've never made it.
Kind of. We want to do a
Okay.
name change to the policy, and then you're going to propose that wording change. Or somebody else will. You can choose which one you make a motion on.
Okay, so I make a motion to accept the name change to the policy as recommended by Director Merlin.
Okay. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second that.
And Stephanie Delar seconds that. And any discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you for that motion. Do I have another motion?
I make a motion to accept the new language of the policies and procedures for requests for consideration.
Thank you, Stephanie. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
I'll second it.
Rich was first. Ariane. Rich, thank you for the second. Any discussions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. None opposed. Thank you. And more on the new business, Kate, we're talking about receiving, getting a motion on these things for the changes. And also, what did you say earlier? I'm sorry.
The art showcase and music thing next on the 18th. I wanted to discuss what it is and that I hope the trustees can be there and be involved. And I've essentially unilaterally decided that the trustees and the foundation and the library are all hosting this at once. Surprise. Basically, we always, for those of you that are newer trustees, well, it's going to be we haven't done this in so long, but February 18th is good old George Peabody's birthday. And normally the trustees host a kind of a breakfast birthday party for him on that Saturday with a cake and a wreath on the second floor. And it's usually attended by the trustees, some other local important people, local politicians. And we've been discussing, the foundation had been discussing for a while how to make that more of an exciting event because it's always a little lackluster and we have to beg staff to come in to eat the leftover cake, which they're not upset by. Don't get me wrong. That Saturday staff loves it, but we all agree that he deserves more of a birthday every year because he really is the reason we exist. And it just happens to coincide with this new thing we're doing every semester now, hosting the high school art show, the high school art department's showcase and art show of everything made in the previous semester. So this is all the kids that took high school art in the fall semester, plus all the kids that participated in music classes, like acoustic music classes. So it's next Friday night, the 18th from 6 to 8, first floor and second floor, Sutton Room and Tech Lab, basically art everywhere. Refreshments, kind of grab and go cookie packs, because we still have masks. So we're not having people like eat and drink in the library, but grab and go cookie packs kind of decorated and themed and prepared and served by the high school culinary arts department kids, musical performance in the Sutton Room, art everywhere. And tomorrow I'm going to be delivering invitations to the mayor and to the city councilors and school committee, and Senator Lovely and Representative Walsh, and basically every other arts organization in Peabody, inviting people to come and spend the evening at the library. And I thought it would be great if we, and the foundation's already good with this too, because I've discussed it with them, if we made it George's birthday party. So if we have the big cake that we normally have, so people can take a little bit of food if they want, and stand 6 feet apart and take a slice, but a little, and the wreath and kind of a thank you to his whole phrase that we always use is that education is the debt due from a present to future generations. And so we literally could not have this art show with these talented, artistic, smart kids without George Peabody funding so much of the city and the library. So it's kind of a nice, easy, triple event. So I would love it if anybody could be there on that Friday evening, Friday the 18th from 6 to 8. I would love that. I'm not sure normally how the whole cake and wreath thing is done, if that's done by the trustees or the foundation or both. I'm not sure how that's usually put into motion. So I'd love some help on that because I've never done it before. But I'd love the trustees to be there to represent the library. And I think that we'll have probably some local politicians and important people there. to really see the library and see all these kids in the library who normally we don't see there. So I think it's kind of going to be a really neat evening. So if anybody can come and help and just host and welcome people, that would be wonderful. And if anybody has any guidance on the cake and the wreath, please send it my way, because I don't know how that's usually done.
Thank you for that. I have a question that reminds me. It's been a while since, and that, I saw your hand go up, Stephanie. I'm sorry, you'll be next. What I seem to remember is actually what I don't seem to remember is the last time we actually did something where we were wearing our name tags,
So
where we dressed up. And I don't know if we have any plans for new name tags for everybody.
We do.
That's here.
Yes,
Okay.
I was waiting until both the foundation. So we have name tags for the foundation and the trustees, and some people have name tags that have both on them. And so I was waiting until our new trustees were sworn in and the new foundation members were sworn in. So my plan is now to get new name tags made. I don't know if they'd be able to be done in a week and a half. Crown Trophy can be pretty quick, but it might be too late. But I'll reach out to them tomorrow.
We certainly could do paper stickers. Hello,
Yeah,
my name
absolutely.
is, right? Yeah, we can
Yeah,
do that.
I can do nicer name tags.
Thank you. Stephanie, go ahead, please. Thank you, Kate.
Well, as far as like the expenditures, the cake ordering and the wreath, I think typically we handle that through the foundation, because the library doesn't really have that type of ability, right, to write a check anymore for stuff like that. So it just kind of falls under the foundation to support, this event and get the cake. So that's one of the details we have to, who's going to get the cake, who's going to pick up the wreath. And we should order that wreath soon. I think we always get it from Evan. So there's some things that we just do every time that we'll
Stephanie,
be able.
I'll reach out to you, Stephanie, tomorrow, because you clearly know what you're talking about. So I'll reach out to you tomorrow and we'll figure out the details of that. Okay.
So I'd like to be a part of this. I think that you did this a couple of years ago. You went to the cemetery to bring the wreath. I'd like to be a part of that, and anybody else who'd like to, I think it'd be nice.
That won't happen. Yeah, I agree. That won't happen. We'll keep the wreath up for the event so that it kind of introduces people walking into the library that, oh, it's George Peabody's birthday.
Yeah.
They put a ribbon across the wreath, signifying how old he is. So that's great. I mean, it really is such a nice event to kind of bring it all together and have all these people be aware that it is his birthday that we're celebrating as well. So I think it's just really a great opportunity. And then the cake, we usually get it from Diorce's, and we'll figure out how to cut it up and serve it to people as they go or whatever. We can figure that out.
Okay.
I think I seem to recall that maybe Tom, as the president, did make a little speech to acknowledge what this was all about and George Peabody. And of course, you remember Don would always do his thing about George Peabody, going on and on about George's story and the history. So there needs to be a little something like that, just to tie the events together, as you suggested, the whole concept of education.
And I am going to reach out to the high school art and music teachers. We don't want it to be a night of speeches. We still want it to be about the kids and their work, but I'll reach out to them and see if any of them are planning on saying anything, and we'll kind of organize it around. I would like there to be somebody to say something, obviously.
Right, a small program.
Yeah, but I think that definitely tying the schools and the arts to his love of culture and education and his whole thing with giving us money. I mean, this is why we exist, is because he gave us money to do cultural things.
He's the first philanthropist in America, isn't he?
Yeah. So I think it's really easy, and this is why it was kind of a no-brainer of an event to do. It's really easy to tie the two things together, to still highlight and appreciate the kids and have the focus still be on them, but George gets a little bit of attention too.
All good things. Thank you.
So I will send out an email tomorrow to everyone with the official invitation attached to it. I would appreciate an RSVP if you will be there or not. And I'll make nice name tags, so you're clearly special people if you're there. And I think it's just an opportunity for us to welcome people to the library who aren't normally there, who we don't normally see, and also people who come to the library but aren't used to being there for an open night, open after hours event for kids. I think it's going to be people that normally don't spend the Friday evening together. So I'll send out the information tomorrow, more information about that. And I think Stephanie Dallaire had her hand raised.
Oh, I didn't see Stephanie.
Hey, yeah, just
Yeah.
unfortunately I will not be able to be there. I'm in Atlanta in school right now, so I really can't fly home for the night.
Sure.
But
How
throughout-
dedicated are you, Stephanie? I expect you to get on the plane just for the night.
sometimes I try, but this time I can't do it.
It's fine.
But I have been to a couple events during the pandemic where they have instead of a big cake, they've used cupcakes and made sort
Oh.
of smushed them together as if they were a cake, decorated it like a cake, but then they were individual cupcakes. So you could pull them apart with tongs or whatever. And that might be an idea for this event where we
Okay.
don't actually have to cut the cake. They're all individual. You can just kind of pull them apart. Just
Yeah, good
throwing it
idea.
out there.
So we should ask Dorsey's if they do
like
that.
that.
Yeah.
And it
I
fits
know
the younger,
if Dorsey's doesn't, Stop and Shop does.
Okay.
whatever works. But that's
Yeah.
a good, and it works kind of for like the younger like teenagers that are going to be there too. I don't know why I think of cupcakes as like younger and hipper. I don't know. That's not real, but
Well, it was
that's
easy.
the idea though.
Just the thought.
Yeah, good one.
It is. Thank you. Anything else for new business? Okay, moving along here. Resolution, again, this is a part of our bylaws. And I always have a hard time with why we have resolution. We don't have anything explained in our bylaws about what we usually do here. And again, any matter suggested, we just covered that earlier, and I asked Kate if she had received anything, and she had not. And similar here on item number 10. Any person suggesting in writing to the library director prior to the issuance of the notice of agenda of the meeting containing a title and description of the agenda item. Okay, and we haven't received anything on that either. So thank you, everyone. The next meeting is scheduled for Monday, the 7th, 7 p.m. And I believe we'll be meeting in person this time, right, Kate?
Yep.
Okay.
Hopefully, if I have a car. Yes.
Well, I hope so. Okay. And if we don't, we'll all be very flexible to make sure that we all can participate. So do I have a motion to adjourn, everybody? Anybody?
So moved.
I think Rick is saying,
Yeah.
go ahead. I'm sorry, Kate.
I was just gonna say, I think Rick has a question. Yeah.
Yeah. Rick, you're on mute. Before we adjourn, you unmute
Okay,
yourself.
can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Just a thought. When they put these new lights up, ask them if they're LED, which they should be.
Oh yeah.
And if they
absolutely.
do enough of them, they will get a credit.
Okay.
So just a thought.
Yeah, they'll
Thank you.
definitely be LED, and it's difficult because they were. What I learned from Martha Holden recently is that anything that's done permanently to the outside of the library has to be run by and approved by the historical commission. And all the stuff I'm planning to do to the courtyard in the next couple of years, which is the raised bed gardens and the patio area, that's all removable and not permanent, but the light fixtures are permanent, which is ironic because the light fixtures that are there now are hideous. So it's ironic that I need to get them approved to make them look more timely and less 1978. No offense to 1978, but they are hideous light fixtures. So I don't anticipate a big problem getting that change approved because I want to make them match what is on Main Street, which is the more Victorian looking ones that match with the era. So, and they will absolutely be LEDs because I want to be able to, the lights now turn off at like 10 o'clock. So after 10 o'clock at night, there's no lights in the courtyard because they're really expensive to keep on. And that makes me uncomfortable. So I'd like to get LEDs that I could leave on longer and won't, hurt the environment any more than they have to. So.
Rick, thanks for the interruption, and I'm going to interrupt a little bit further because of your interruption. And on those lights, Kate, I'm kind of I like the 2700 Kelvin to 3000, and that's more of a natural light. What ends up happening, I don't know if anybody's done any reading on light pollution. If you used to fly and look down at the ground, you would see like a yellowish light at one point in time. Then they went to sodium vapor, which had this orangey light, and then mercury vapor, which had this greenish blue light. And now we're getting into these like super daylight lights around 5000 Kelvin. A more natural lighting closer to gas and incandescent, and candle is more 2700. A natural lighting. So when you are considering about the lighting, period lighting of the time, please consider that so we don't have bright daylight in the middle of the night.
Oh, I hate those lights. I hate the ones I hate the white, greenish, bluish looking ones. I definitely want to make them look as old timey as possible while still being from 2022.
Well, that would be 2,700 Kelvin. So
Okay.
just be sensitive to that. So
Okay, will
they
do.
don't give you the 5,000s. Okay. So anyways, do I have, thank you,
Oh,
everybody.
I think Anne.
Anne, please, sorry, go
Just
ahead.
wanted to bring up an administrative thing. This is for Sarah. She collected all our name, address, emails, information, and can you distribute that to us?
Yep, I did that actually, and I have not had a chance to distribute it. That was supposed to happen last week, and then
Okay.
the library exploded. So I'm a little behind.
Oh, okay.
On that kind of administrative stuff right now, but I'll email it to you and then bring printed copies to the next meeting as well.
Yeah, and thank you, everybody, for the free form agenda here towards the end. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So
Motion to adjourn.
One at a time, please. Who wants to give the first motion? Stephanie, I see you there.
All right, so moved.
And a second, I heard Rick. So Rick, second. All right, any discussion? All right, and everybody in favor? Let's see.
Aye.
Who's in favor? Okay, anybody opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everybody, for this meeting and everybody's participation this evening. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you on the 18th.
On the
Thank
18th.
you.